Hi, I'm RC Jim, and it's good to have you along. This video is a follow-on our all about radio-controlled batteries. And in this particular one, we want to look at the various battery chargers that I've used and compare them with one another. Now, it would be great if I had the money to go out and buy all of them. But hey, I think we've come up with some pretty good solutions along the way. And there actually are reasons for picking any of these three chargers that we're going to have a look at. We're going to look at the LiPro, the SkyRC, and the Spektrum S1200. So let's get right into it. So we want to know about battery chargers. Here we got quite an array. I started out, well, when I got back into the hobby after a long period of time out of the hobby, got back into the hobby, went to the flying club, and they told me that the thing to do was to start with a Spektrum radio system. So I bought myself an NX6 and bought an electric plane that went along with it. And since I had Spektrum, I thought, well, Spektrum must be the thing to use for a battery charger. So I paid some reasonable money for this little S1200, and it worked out fine. But of course, with this, it's got a DC input. So that meant I needed to buy a power supply for charging it when I was at home. Great if I was at the field and wanted to hook it up to the car, but at home, I needed a power supply. So that immediately more than doubled the cost to get the power supply. This was reasonably expensive to begin with. So anyway, we got going with this, and then I found it was a bit of a pain in that I wanted to at least have 2 flights every time I went. And I was having to charge one battery and then charge another battery after that. And I thought, oh, not to get another charger. So I bought one of these LiPro guys, and with these, by that time I was getting a little bit more savvy in terms of stuff that's available, and searching on the internet I saw that, well, hey, these are balanced chargers and they're really cheap, and so I bought, I don't know if I bought 1 or 2 of them. But anyway, then gradually I added to it, and for the most part now I fly 4 times every time I go to the field. And so I had these 4 chargers, and one power supply didn't have enough wattage to be able to handle all 4. So I bought a second power supply to go along with that. And then, of course, with that, if you go thinking about what's involved in setting this things up, you got to get the power from this to the various chargers. So I made up some little harnesses to, hook up wires and hook them to the various, power supply or various chargers. And so, you plug those in, and then, another thing here. When I did this one, I used a real heavy wire, and then I got thinking, well, hey, it's only charging these things at 3 amps or 5 amps or whatever. I don't need to have all that super heavy wire, so 20 amps worth is fine. So anyway, then that allowed me to get these other ones all plugged in, and each one has their own style of connector. These, by the way, came with the leads, but I had to put on the banana plugs there to hook up into my system. The Spektrum charger came with a variety of leads, but it included these ones with banana plugs that could plug into what I have there. But anyway, that's a fair bit of spaghetti around the place. And then, of course, we have to hook up batteries to those. And these things, they have a banana plug output, and so you need something that's got banana plugs onto it to get to whatever kind of battery you want. So this is your main power output, and then you've got your balance connector that connects into the port to the side, and with these chargers you actually have a separate balance port connection for each size battery. And that's pretty good, because on this particular one, that 3S one, has got a problem. Yeah, no, I'm not sure. I did land a plane in the lake once, saltwater lake, and maybe I plugged that connector onto there that had the salt on it. You can see that they're tarnished. Either that or I fried it doing something, but at any rate, the 3S doesn't work on this particular one, but everything else does, so I continue to use it. Well, right now just for demos, but after that happened, I used it for quite a while. So anyway, you have to have a connector to connect up to it, and then finally you can connect up your battery and go through the menu and set things up. For the Spektrum, since everything is Spektrum, as far as Spektrum is concerned, you've got your IC3 connector on the side. So if you got all IC3 batteries, fine, just plug them straight into there. If you don't have IC connectors on your planes, you might have XTs. So this is XT90. Then you can get an EC3 connector that will fit into the IC3, and then you can connect that one. And then if you have, the smaller XT60, you could have an adapter that you plug into that one. And so, you got your various system there that can handle at least 3 different types of connectors just using 2 extra cables with that one charger there. But then as you get to the SkyRC, then you've got a situation where we've got XT60 connectors all around, and this handles 4 batteries. So it's got A, B, C, and D ports. And each one has got a single balance connector. So you just have it positioned over to the right with negative on that side. And you plug that in there, and you plug in your XT60, and it goes all around. And this one can be powered either with AC or DC. Now, I might mention that these LiPros, you can buy one of these that does have the AC, transformer or whatever it is inside it, so you can plug it into AC. But anyway, this one can either be powered by AC or DC. But we note that with AC, it's only good for 200 watts, whereas DC, it's good for 400 watts. And with this, if you've got the XT60s, that's fine. If you've got XT90s, then all you got to do is have an adapter like this to be able to plug in and plug your plane into there. And so basically, for each battery, the most you only need is 1, and a lot of times you don't need any if you're using the XT60s. In terms of performance, all of them will charge a battery. All of them have, pretty good options in terms of setting up and choosing current and things like that. And we'll go through that in a minute as to just what you do. The LiPros, they will tend to, as you're watching the voltage on each of the cells, like say if you got a 4-cell battery and you're watching the voltage, each one will go up and then it'll go down, and it'll have a different one. It'll go up and it'll go down and go up and go down. And it's basically, playing around, sending the current to different ones. And obviously there are times that it backs off on sending current. As you look at both the Spektrum and the SkyRC, you don't see them go down at all. You'll see, like one maybe gets up maybe 1/100th of a volt above the others, and then that will stay there, and then they'll pick the other one up and the other one up, and so they're just gradually inching up, but they're all doing the balance of the charging. In my testing, generally they take about the same amount of time. Obviously they're charging with the same amount of current that you specified, so generally about the same amount of time. But I have had some times with these LiPros where it seems like it just can't quite decide to finish. And it just goes on and on and on, and it might go for an hour or so. And finally I just give up and say, well, that's close enough. But generally they'll all do the job. You notice on this one here I say not accurate voltage. One of the things that prompted me to buy this charger was that I was charging a set of batteries, and generally the Spektrum is the better charger and seems to be a little bit quicker in general than these ones. So I was charging some batteries, and the one that was on the Spektrum finished, so I took that off. And I thought, well, I'll just take one off of this charger and put it on there, and it might finish a little bit quicker. And so I took it off here, plugged it onto there, and I got a warning message saying that one of the cells had too high of a voltage. And so I checked, and sure enough, it was just slightly over 4.2 volts. And I think, well, this didn't even consider it to be done yet, and it already had it over 4.2 volts. That's not very good. And so I did two things. I bought the charger here, and I also bought a really good quality multimeter to be able to check to see what's going on. And all of that prompted me to do this video for you. Okay, so in terms of other comparisons, voltage input, you've got 11 to 18 volts with these guys. You've got 7 to 32 volts with those ones, and this one I think is 10 to 30 volts that you can put into it. Yeah. Potentially, for example, if I wanted to do the 400 watts with this and I had both of these, I could hook these up with a cable in series and double the voltage and put it in there, and then I would have 270 watts each, so I've got over 500 watts with these two combined, so that gives me over the 400 watts and no problem there. And the voltage would be, let's see, 26, a little over 26 volts, something like that, which is under the 30 that could handle. So I could do that, and that would allow me to do, especially if I'm charging my big 6S batteries or something like that, it'll allow me to do it quicker. But for the most part, I don't have any problem with sticking to the 200 watts and being able to have all four of them going on there. You may have noticed, but as you think about the two systems, take this system here and that system there. Okay, using this system, I can charge 4 batteries, and this is allowing me to do, say, 2 of them that are the XT90s, 2 of them that are XT60s. I could have a IC3, plugged into that, and then plug this into that and that into that. So that will allow me to do an IC3. This will allow me to do an IC5, and again plug this into that and that into that. So those cables there, I can basically cover all of the main batteries for either the Spektrum E-Flight type system or for the XT type system. So that takes care of it all, and I don't need any of these power supplies. That'll do the whole thing. With this system over here, I've got to have all of these, 4 chargers to do the same as that one. Got to have all this conglomeration of spaghetti here, and then I have to have at least these guys here in terms of wires and stuff. And then I've also got to be really careful. If I happen to plug a battery into here and I got these things loose, I can start making sparks and whatever with the live electricity on the end of those. I got to be real careful to make sure I plug them in first, and then plug in the battery, and then at the end disconnect the battery first before unplugging those. In addition, I've fried at least one of these by accidentally just having a brain fade and plugging these things in backwards on one. And I don't know how I did that, because I always, obviously I didn't do it once, but in general I always, red, black, red, black, red, black. Before I turn everything on, I go through, they're all the same way, it all looks good, Try to be really careful with regard to that, and yet I've managed to totally wipe it out. With this one over here, the IC connectors, they've got the little indent things to try to keep the plug in the right place. But with the plastic, I've actually managed on one particular occasion to plug it in just slightly in the wrong spot. I don't know how I did that. But anyway, it just came up with a warning saying, you know, the incorrect polarity. And didn't damage anything at all. It just simply warned me that I had done the wrong thing. And so I was able to rectify it straight away. I might say as well that that's one downside of this one is just in terms of the connector there, just the way that they've done the little the plastic bits compared to the conductors coming out of there. This is a little bit less precise, and it's a little bit harder to find the sweet spot to plug it in, whereas something like this is absolute no-brainer. You absolutely get it in there fine. This one is pretty good, but you just have to have it upside down compared to most things in plugging it in. Negative is down at this end, but it works fine. Well, let's have a look now at the LiPro and see what's involved with it. First off, we got our power connected up. I'm checking on the power supply that red and black is correct. We're all set up here with these already plugged in, and so I turn on the power supply, and it tells me straight off that it's already got a LiPo selected. If I did want to check to have a different battery, I hit this battery type button. LiPo there, nickel metal hydride, NiCad, lead, save data, load data, user set, and back to LiPo. Hit enter to select that. So I got LiPo. So generally you'll just be doing LiPos and you just leave that on LiPo all the time. Charge, that you got to be careful with that, in that what we really want is a balance charge. So you actually have to hit the arrow to get over to balance. You do have an option to go into a fast charge and into storage. Okay, and discharge. Now discharge won't totally discharge the battery, but it'll take it down to a really low level. And if you were getting rid of the battery to throw it away, then you would hook it up to some light globes or something to run it down the rest of the way. Okay, but what we want is a balanced charge. We then hit enter to get over to the next item, and then now we've got that flashing. And so now we're ready to hook up our battery. So we're just going to use this 4S 2200 as an example here. And so we check everything, polarity is right, red is red, black is black. Nothing is going to blow up when I connect these things together. And so that's connected. Okay, so 2200 on the battery means that we want 2.2 amps. So here I go down, and it is nice that it keeps running when you hold in the button. 2.2 amps. Hit enter, that takes us over to the voltage, and of course that's a function of how many cells. So we want to go down to 4S, which is what this one has. I haven't plugged in the balance connector yet, so let's go ahead and do that. And that's over here on the top. Okay, so we got the balance connector connected. Okay, so we're all set. LiPo balance, 2.2 amps. 4S battery. I now hold in the enter. Battery check, I let it off. 4S, that's all good, so I hit enter and it starts. So this is now telling me the amperage that it's charging at, and of course 4S charging at 2.2 amps, saying it's now at 15.38 volts. It's a balanced charge. It's been going for 16 seconds. And so far it's put in 2, 3, and so forth milliamp hours. If I hit the arrow over here, I can see the voltages per cell. So 3.89 right across, and then go back. So that's essentially all there is. This thing will give you some beeps when it finishes, and it'll cut itself off, but naturally you want to be around to make sure that everything is okay as you go. Okay, if we want to stop, we hit stop, and that's done. Now with this charger, it does have one additional benefit, and that is with that nickel metal hydride, I can hook up a cable to it. And so I've got this little cable right here with banana plugs on one end, and I've got this little, whatever you call those, on this end. And it allows me to take something like this old nickel metal hydride pack that was used with a nitro plane, and I can plug that guy in there, black to black. Okay, and plug that into the thing, use that nickel metal hydride setting on there, and I can charge its battery. Downside is it's not smart enough to know when to stop. You just simply set a current, and I'll use like 0.3 of an amp, and then run it for however long you think it needs, and you can check it with a meter if you want, voltmeter, to see where you're at. But nonetheless, it's a way to charge that type of battery. Now let's compare that with what we have to do for a Spektrum. We're charging the same battery, so we've got an XT60 connector. So I've got this adapter here that takes XT60 to XT90, and that one that takes XT90 back down to EC3. So I plug these guys together, and then plug that into my battery. And I don't have to worry with this as far as what happens with a loose end, because it's protected. So I'll plug that into my battery. I then plug this into the EC3 connector over here on this side, and plug in my balance connector. Keeping in mind that this one, the tabs are down when it goes in, and negative is down at this end, so it goes in that way. Okay. And get this all around here to where yeah, okay, so that's kind of positioned there. Okay, so now let's zoom in, and we'll have a look at the menu and what we're going to do. Okay, so this is telling me what the voltage is of each one. To get to the menu, I press in the middle, and on this thing you've got a button to press in the middle to select things, and this outside bit acts like a scroll wheel without actually turning. It just senses where your finger is, and you just go around one way or the other. Okay, so it's a LiPo battery, and just to show you what our options here are. Again, we've got LiPo high voltage, LiPo L-ion, lithium ferrite, and lead. Okay, so lots of options there, so that's all good. So LiPo is what we want. Number of cells. Now, if you had plugged a Spektrum battery in here that has the smart sort of stuff with it, it would actually pick up what it is as far as the success and the current. And if you've had it on charge, and notice that this doesn't have a balance setting, it is a balance charge no matter what. So you got charge, discharge, and storage. So given you had it on charge the last time and you plug in a smart battery, it'll just simply start and it'll get going. So that's kind of neat. Okay, so LiPo, we have a 4S, and this is not a smart battery, so I have to tell it that it's a 4S. The current, I want 2.2, and this wheel, there are settings for how sensitive that is, and I've got it trying to make it as, easier to handle, and it's still a little bit wonky. Okay, 2.2 amps, voltage naturally is 4.2, and you got the start. Now, you got some other options down here. If you got a smart battery, you got the smart battery settings, and this isn't a smart one, so I guess it's not letting me do that. But then system settings, where you've got the input voltage there, that's basically a protection for your car battery. What it's going to do, it doesn't do anything different in terms of how it's charging to have that set at different values, but what it's going to do is if the input voltage gets below that, it's going to stop and it's going to give you a warning. Okay? So what that does is you can set that at a voltage that you feel that you're going to be safe as far as being able to start your car if you run it down to that level. Okay. Input power, again, is a type of thing that'll cut it off. So, this is allowing for 180 watts. But if you're drawing something over whatever you've got here, again, it'll just cut it off. Backlight, actually, this would probably be better if we had that on low for the camera, wouldn't it? There we go. Isn't that better? Okay. Volume, yeah, some of you will be annoyed at sort of making too much noise. Completion, tone, repeat, touch sensitivity, that's low, so you have to touch it a little bit harder, and the language is English. Okay, so you got all of those options there that are quite helpful, and then at the bottom we've got the thing to go back. Self-test, calibration. Yeah, it's interesting. It's got the testing calibration. Okay, so we go back. So with this being the case, we've got everything set to where we want it. We can then press in on start, and it's charging. So here it's telling us that we've got the Forest LiPo. This has got a nice graphic on there indicating how far things are along. Plus it's got the percentage over here. Tells us the charge rate, how much has gone in so far, how many minutes have elapsed along the way. And then if I dial this wheel here, I then can see what the voltages are for each of the cells. And if I dial it once more, after a while here, it's going to give me the resistance for each of the cells. There it goes. Takes a little bit of time for that to come up. Well, once you get going, it's there. And with this, you naturally want to have minimal difference between the cells. They'll tend to, be in a certain sort of range. So this is like right around 10 milliohms. And that's fine. And this amount of variance is not a problem. 9.8 to 11.6. But if I had one here at, say, 50 milliohms, I'd say, whoa, we got a fault here. There's something wrong, and then you'd want to look into it. Okay? So, that's all there is with this. Again, it will stop and it will sound an alarm when it's finished and be all done. And if we want to stop it right now, I press in and hold, and then it's got a stop option, and I can stop it. Now, what about SkyRC? Well, again, we've got the 4 ports here, and they're all XT60s. The negative is sort of always to the right. As you're looking at the face that it's plugged into, to the right is negative for both the balance and for the power. So the black lead goes to the right. So you got the power there, and you got the balance here. So I've got the red off to that way. And you have to feel it a little bit to make sure it's going into the right place. And that is there. And it would give me a warning if somehow I forced it into the wrong place. Okay, so we've got the 4 different ports here. So A, B, C, and D. So we're on A. So I can just press in on this scroll wheel. And the scroll wheel here works like on many transmitters where you press it in to click it and you roll it to select things. So I press in. There I've got the information on the battery. So I got the voltage per cell, got the overall voltage, how many amps it's charging at. If it was charging, I could dial over here one more and get the resistance for each cell, so similar to the Spektrum as far as that goes. Okay, so I want to set up things for charging, so I press in on the wheel. It remembers the last thing that you did, and so that'll be up here. But in this particular case, I want to do something a little bit different. And so I want to go down here to where it says storage, and I'll pick here balanced charge. So as of the LiPro, you got a choice of balanced charge or charge. The difference is this one is going to remember that balanced charge as being the last thing that you did. And it's never going to, since you never use the one that's not a balanced charge, it's just plain charge, that one will never be there. It might be storage or it might be balanced charge, depending on what you've done. But anyway, you select that. Again, it has the 4.2 volts for the target. Charge current, we dial that down, and this scroll wheel works really nice and quick and all of that for doing that. And then you just simply go to the start, and off it goes. It does give you the option, if you had a bunch of batteries that were all such that you could, they're all 4S and you're going to charge them at the same rate, you just simply say yes here, and it would start them all off with the same settings. I'll say no, and so off it goes. So here we got the voltage that it's charging at, a bit of a graphic, not as detailed as the Spektrum one, and it doesn't get us the percentage, but nonetheless gives you an indication of where you're at. Tells us the number of milliamp hours that have gone in. This shows you the number of watts that is being used in charging it. You got your time here as to how long it's been going. And then, as I said before, you can dial over one to the right and it's going to show you the resistance. Now, isn't it interesting that this one says 9 milliohms for all of it, and the other one for the same battery had a range of 9.8 to 11. So that's interesting. Be worth checking that and seeing. Yeah, the one where it's got the variation is almost more believable in that it seems like it's measuring something more in detail. So I have seen variation on this before on other batteries, and certainly I'm sure it would show you if there's something way off. But yeah, interesting. Okay, so after you get the one set up, then you just hit the port and it'll go to the next one. You plug that in and so forth. You keep going through the different ports, setting them up, and then the last time you hit port, it'll then give you a summary of all of the batteries and how they're going. We've got it right now plugged into mains power, but on the back there is also an XT60 that is used for DC power to charge. You can see it's got a cooling fan, nice big one on this as compared to the little tiny cooling fan on the Spektrum, and no cooling fan on the LiPro. And it can be a bit noisy when it gets going, but yeah, such is life. With SkyRC, we also have the benefit of having an app. So this little SkyRC app here, if you go into there, it shows you what's going on with your charger. And so in the app, they got some ads up there, but if you ignore that, it lists however many chargers you've put in down here. So you just touch on your charger, and it'll then give you information about what's happening with it. No, I don't want to update my firmware just at the moment. Right now it's not going, so it's showing me options that are there. So let's go back to port A. We'll go in there and we'll press in and we'll get it started, and we'll say yes, we want to do the same for everything that's hooked up. And so now it'll have both A and B going. And so as we look at our app here, which is connected by Bluetooth with the charger. Let's see, what do we got here? Oh, this is actually allowing me to start it. Okay, so anyway, go back, and that was interesting. I didn't realize with the app you could actually use it to start the charger. I knew you could stop it, but you can actually start it as well. So anyway, with channel A, we've got a LiPo 4-cell charging at 2.18 amps. 2.22, it's 15.8 volts, it's put in 25 milliamp hours, yep. Charger temperature, that's something that you don't see there, so you can keep track of how warm this thing is getting as it's working away. You got the individual cell voltages, and note that we also have the capacity, the 72%. We're saying we're 3/4 of the way there. don't have that information on this screen. It shows you the overall voltage to give you a rough idea and a little bit of the graphic, but not as detailed as what you have here with that capacity, so that's pretty good. You can then touch on the next one and be able to get the information for that. Same sort of information that's there. And with this, you know, I mentioned it's a Bluetooth connection, so you're not going to be able to go very far away. But it's a type of thing that if you're in the same room or working on something else, you can have this handy. And if it's sometime before it's finished, then you can have a quick look and see how it's going and see what's happening. As compared to having to walk back and look at the screen and, you know, you'd probably have it on the overall menu there to show the whole thing. But nonetheless, that could be handy to do. And I was just looking to see whether there's a summary screen here, but no, you got to pick the individual ones. Now, while I'm here, you may recall that on this battery we had a different reading on the resistance than what we had on the Spektrum. So I'm just wondering what's going on with that. That's in B. So we go there. And now we got 5 and 6 milliohms. A little while ago I checked with it and it was a different value yet again. So I'm wondering if there's something that's going on in the chemistry of the battery or whatever else that actually causes that to vary from time to time. Temperature, you know, who knows what. So it might be that that's not a fixed sort of thing. Go back to A. We go in there, 5 and 6 milliohms. So obviously we don't have a problem, but nonetheless, it is interesting to see that it does change from time to time. Now, I mentioned with the LiPro that we could charge a nickel metal hydride pack such as this. But it actually is interesting as you look at the SkyRC, and of course you could do this with a Spektrum as well. But what would be involved in doing that with this? So first off, I had to sort of jury rig a cable here. So I had the cable that I had before that got me up to, you know, the banana plug connectors, and then I had to go through some other stuff to get up here to my XT60. Obviously, if you're doing this on a regular basis, and for me that'll be coming up, I'll be modifying this to go straight to an XT60. But anyway, we plugged that into our port over here, so we've now got this connected with that. We then get our black and brown together, dark two cables together to plug that in. Okay, and so immediately it's detected we got a battery and it's at 6.8 volts. Okay, we press in on the wheel, and now we go up there to battery type, press in, and we've got all of the selections. So we go down here to nickel metal hydride, which is what this is. Now immediately our menu has changed. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cells in here. So 5S is 5 cells, and if you had a pack that had 4, you'd use 4 and so forth. So in this particular case, 5 cells. Task is normal, so we don't want to discharge it. We don't, well, not sure what repeak is. Cycle, I'm not sure all the details on that, but sometimes with the battery pack you do a cycling type of thing to try and rejuvenate it, but we just want normal. Condition is what we're targeting, and -6 delta millivolts. So 6 millivolts below something. I have to look and see what that is. I don't really know. And it's got a heart on it, so I guess it likes it. Okay, charge current is just what it suggested, and you can do something different. If you want to be a little bit more mild on your battery, you can, you know, go down to something less. And keeping in mind I was charging at 0.3 of an amp just to be super safe. This has obviously worked out what it needs to do to manage it. And so now you hit start. Don't want to do it for all channels. And so off we go. and so you can see the voltage and the amperage. Obviously it doesn't have a balance connector, so there's no way to charge individual cells and that type of thing. But charging away, telling us the total amount that has gone in and so forth, and we'll see what it does in terms of how it finishes. While this is going here, I'm just having a look at the instructions. Always good to look at the instructions when you're looking at doing something. And we can see down here for nickel metal hydride that 1.2 volts per cell is nominal voltage. It can charge it up to 1.5 volts per cell. No particular storage voltage needed. And it can be charged at 1C to 2C. Minimum discharge voltage 0.6 to 1 volt per cell. That's what it can get down to. So the key thing here, 1C to 2C. So we have a look at our battery, and I can see here that it says minimum 1900 milliamp hours. Okay. Now you've got 5 of these, but they're all wired in series. So that means that it hasn't multiplied the capacity as far as number of amps. Every one of them is going to have the same current going through it along the way. And the time is going to be the same for all of them. So we can basically say that this pack has got 1.9 amp hours. So 1900 milliamp hours, 1.9. So that means that 1C would be 1.9 amps. And it can go up to 2 Cs, so that means we could go up to 3.8 amps. So they had suggested 3 amps, which was fine. I did it at 2.5, and you notice now it's all done, taken care of. So I love this. That's the first time I've done it with this one. I've always used the old charger to charge this guy, but this is great as far as doing it quickly and monitoring what's going on and suggesting to you something that's really good. Now, having done this battery on the SkyRC, I've never done one of these before on our Spektrum, so I thought, well, yeah, let's just see what the Spektrum does with it. Okay, so we hold the menu button down. For battery, we go back here to LiPro and we pick nickel metal hydride. Okay, cells can be auto. Yeah, okay, 2.2 amps. Voltage minus delta 8 microvolts, whatever it might be. Then hit start. And showing the percentage capacity. Charge rate, just gradually climbing up there as we go. And it's interesting. Seems to be taking some time to sort of work out where it's really at. But given that we just fully charged it with the other charger, it's a little bit strange. So it's gone all the way up to 2.2 amps now. You'll note that we're now 13 minutes along. Thing is still sitting at 74% and not going anywhere. I think there's a bit of a problem here, perhaps in the automatic detection for how many cells or whatever, that it's expecting it to go a lot higher, but it's really not able to go any higher. So I think the SkyRC is actually charged it properly. The Spektrum is thinking it needs more, but it can't handle anymore. It's got as much as it can handle. The battery is starting to get a little bit warm now. We're up to 28, 29 degrees. And the ambient temperature here is 17. So I think the Spektrum one has got a problem with regard to that particular battery. A natural question that comes up with regard to anytime you're looking at purchasing something like this is, what about the cost? Now, this is the most expensive single item of anything here, but that one item does the whole thing. If I was to buy 4 of these and 2 power supplies to go along with them, I would be up pretty close to the price of one of these. Might be within, say, $50 or so of the cost of that to do 4 of those. If I did 4 of these without 2 power supplies, then that cost is way, way, way more than this. We'd be looking at about 30% more to buy 4 of those and 2 of those. But of course, Spektrum probably has some multi-port ones. I recall seeing a 2-port one, and maybe you get a couple of those. But I still reckon that if you did all Spektrum with whatever sort of power supply you've got, that's going to be the most expensive. So the SkyRC, if you're going with 4 batteries, that's a logical choice, you know. So that's why I've gone with this one. So which charger are you going to get? Are you going to stick to big brand Spektrum and buy one of these, or maybe one of their other chargers that they've got? Are you going to go to the low-cost budget option of a LiPro, or are you going to do what I've done and come up with something like a SkyRC? And there would be other brands, I'm sure, that would be equivalent to this. This, I think, was the lower cost among those various options, you know, high-tech and various things such as that. And there could be reasons for spending more money on a different one. I trust that as we've shared this information with you, it gives you a leg up in understanding which one might really suit your situation. So, make sure that you have subscribed if you haven't done so already. And then in this next video, we're going to have a look at battery performance and what actually goes on in terms of what your battery can deliver. And that could be pretty important, especially as you're setting up a new plane and deciding what size battery to get for it.